to recent friends of mine, but I know long-term museum friends from the Model T Ford Club of America. So I am joined by Susan Yaeger, the executive director, and by Noah Bevington, who is the museum program coordinator. So welcome, guys.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
So, so as everybody knows, I talking is not a problem for me, but this is really about our folks' chance to ask you questions and a chance for us to really talk about different ways that the museums have kind of collaborated on different topics over the years, but not necessarily directly. And so this web series we're doing seemed like a very apropos opportunity to move forward with that strengthening of that connection. But before we get started, I just want to invite everybody, as always, to go ahead and write into the comments any questions that you have for Model T Ford Club of America or for Susan or Noah. And in the meantime, while you're getting those questions going, why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Susan, I would love to give you the floor for a few minutes. Tell everybody how you got involved in such an amazing organization.
Well, thank you. And we sure do appreciate the opportunity. And your museum is so special. And we're honored to be a part of what you're doing. But I don't own a Model T, but I am surrounded by 40 of them here at the museum where our business offices are located. And I actually got involved in a volunteer way back in planning the 2008 Centennial Tea Party that was held here in Richmond, Indiana. And so I was a volunteer and ended up being the event director for that, which was a fabulous event that a lot of people came. We actually had 1,000 Model Ts here in Richmond for a week. We had over 12,000 people that were here for the week. And so Richmond and the Model T have a real love affair with each other. And so I was working at the time, and then when I retired in 2015, the opportunity to come here and work for the museum became available for the Model T Ford Club of America. And so I've been here since 2015, and absolutely, like I said, fell in love with the Model T and the people, and it's a privilege to be able to be a part of it.
That's so interesting, Susan, and Noah, we'll hop right over to you in a second, but it's so interesting that this came as almost as a second career out of a love of doing it, because that mirrors so many people's stories that I hear as far as how they've gotten involved in Model Ts themselves is just by chance, or, you know, a hobby that has evolved into something they just couldn't leave alone. So I think that the fact that that's your story too, as the ED of the organization, is pretty cool.
Yeah, it really is. And I think in addition to, I've always loved history of any kind, and particularly enjoy the era of the Model T. But honestly, it was the people that I come from retired from Procter & Gamble and had a wonderful career there. But I've met such wonderful people, starting with the Centennial. And then Owlshead Transportation Museum is a great example. I had a chance soon after I started in 2015 to come to the Down East chapter. That's the local chapter there in Maine, to go on their mainly tea tour. And so actually have made a lot of friendships with people, including there in Maine. Warren Kincaid, what a treasure to be able to have him as directing your transportation program. So it's the car. I love the car, but I love the people more.
Well, and you know, one would not be the same without the other. So yeah. Well, thank you for being here, Susan. Noah.
Good morning, Sophie.
Hello, Noah. How did you end up at this organization?
Well, it's I personally think that my story is a little bit interesting, considering that Susan was in the committee for the Centennial. I was actually there when I was 10 years old. I was there for one day with my grandparents. But oddly enough, I was a morning show producer on the radio. and Susan was actually the spearhead for my segment that was supposed to be sponsored. It was called Things You Need to Know. I'm not making this up.
Wow.
So what ended up happening was I met Susan actually in a pink suit coat. We were there at a breast cancer awareness event, and we ended up creating a friendship that night, and she ended up getting my segment sponsored. And a few months later, I heard that there was a position here at the museum that needed filling. I was in need of a second job. I applied, and now here I am, and I've been here ever since.
Oh, that is a very cool story. And I would argue the pink suit would be memorable. So I agree. Yeah. A very interesting story. All right. So folks, go ahead and again, if you're just tuning in and joining us, we are here with Susan Yaeger and Noah Bevington of the Model T Ford Club of America, the world's largest Model T club. And so feel free to send your questions right in the comments section of this live stream. We're going to get started with a question that I have from Jim. And I'm rephrasing this, but essentially, how did Model T Ford Club of America get started? Now, I realize that might be a large question, but I feel like the same thing we're talking about with the people, everything to do with the Model T has a fun origin story. So Susan, how did this whole organization that feels like it's turned into a national movement get started?
Mm-hmm. Well, the club started in California with a group of people who owned and drove and loved Model Ts. Started in Southern California. There were local chapters, and they one of the spearhead drivers of it was a gentleman by the name of Bruce McCauley, and he is well recognized. He's passed on since then, but he knew everything about Model Ts and wrote books about it, and so there was that central group. He was actually the editor of the Vintage Ford magazine. We published the Vintage Ford, and so he was the first club executive director and the Vintage Ford editor for the first 25 years. And so they started touring. I think what made our club really grow was they drive their cars. They do tours. They don't sit in their garages and look at their pretty car. I mean, some of them do, but they get out and drive and enjoy them. And so it grew to where we have local chapters all over. The club the business headquarters stayed there in California for the first 25 years. And then the second 25 years, I don't know if I mentioned, it was 1965 that the club was first organized, and then incorporated in 1966. So, and then the next executive director was originally from Richmond, although at the time they were living in Dallas, but they came back to Richmond. So that's why it came here to Richmond. We get a question a lot of times of why Richmond, Indiana. And so it really followed the executive director, because at that time we didn't have a museum until 2007. So 2007, the museum was first opened in Centerville, Indiana, which is the next town over from us, and then outgrew that space, and now the museum is here in Richmond. So, and the club headquarters are here in Richmond.
Oh, wow. And so, so Susan, I know that we've talked a little bit about offline about the museum itself and some of the amazing things you have going on there. We did just have a question come in from Tom, who's wondering, what's the coolest Model T that your museum has on display? And I know that you and Noah had passed along a rumor that there might be an incredibly fascinating loan that has just recently arrived. Is that true?
That's true, and I'm going to pass it over to Noah.
Okay, so our new loan that we just recently received is our 1921 Model T Coupe, which is the 5 millionth Model T that we have here on display.
Very, very cool. And so tell us where this loan came from, Noah, and the significance of it. What's so, I mean, not what's so special about the 5 millionth Model T, but if we're talking about there were, I should know this, Rob's gonna scowl at me tomorrow. A little over 15 million were produced, correct?
There were 15,076,231 Model Ts made within the 19 years.
Susan, you have a show off on your hands, but well done, Noah. Well done. So, but the 5 millionth is a pretty big deal, correct?
Yes, the 5 millionth was a really big deal. The 5 millionth was rolled off on May 28th, 1921 at 7:05 a.m. in Detroit. It is such a gorgeous car. Henry Ford originally wanted to keep the 5 millionth Model T for his own personal museum, the Henry Ford up in Michigan. Yeah. But they somehow lost it, and they believe that it was destroyed in a warehouse fire during World War II. In 1992, there were some people who were just looking at some Model Ts and found out that this particular one was the 5 millionth, in fact.
And this is the 5 millionth that we have shared on the screen, correct?
Correct.
And so I'm noticing it looks a little bit different than some of the ones that we have either at the museum, the Owl's Head Museum, and some that you'll see on tours if folks are watching out their window. Mostly because it has, it's a lot more enclosed than some of the ones we have, where we have, it's Maine, it's summer, we're in the woods, so we'll have a lot of bugs coming in and out. But this one is looks quite on the up and up. I'm seeing windows on all sides, and I mean, it's a beautiful looking Model T, Noah.
It is a very, very beautiful Model T, and we have been making sure to keep it as clean as humanly possible.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So this is a great example of a collaboration with another transportation museum, which I think is so important because, as you said, Susan, our crowd travels, and there are some that may be looking at these vehicles in the garage and stuff like that, but the majority, it seems like, are looking at them when the weather is too rough to be able to take them out on the road. Susan, can you talk a little bit about the nature of Model T tours and what reactions people have when you're pulling into an area, and what sort of impact that has for the overall community?
Mm-hmm. Well, particularly on tours, and I think that's what makes it so fun, is I've never been anywhere in a Model T, whether you're in one or if you're in a parade of 50, that they don't make people smile. Whatever it is, they make people smile no matter where you go. And people are fascinated by, especially kids, when you get kids taking a look at them. And of course, they're all looking for the modern conveniences, where's the DVD player, where, all the things that they're used to in a car. And then I think a lot of the questions that people ask about what something like on the earlier brass cars that I know you have some there, and what the different things are, what do they do, what do the three pedals do, what does the throttle and the spark do, as Tom is finding out, I understand.
Yes, he is. Well, tomorrow we are releasing, tomorrow is the premiere of episode 6. And as we talked earlier this week, and not as a spoiler, because again, I have been sworn to secrecy, but I do believe that tomorrow we are actually getting into a Model T for the first time, not to drive it, because as Tom finds out, there's a lot you have to take care of before you actually get to that part. So yeah, it's very interesting. And so, Susan, one thing that I always think about is when I started at the museum about 3 years ago, I was driving a Prius. I will admit it. I was driving a Prius that had one of those keys that just drops right in your purse. And, you don't even need to get it out. And it's a completely silent ride. And so to go from the difference of my first Model T ride with an amazing volunteer we have named Carter, who is one of our, resident Model T folks, along with Warren and Marianne and, some other folks you'll see in the series. And so to go from such a noisy, thrilling wind and bugs everywhere, but so pleasant an experience of feeling the car, to this very sanitized, sorry to anyone who's still driving a Prius, it's safe and it's comfortable, and it is just so boring compared. I mean, I'll just say it. That's a bold statement, but it is boring compared to listening to the car telling you what's about to happen, which is so exciting. So Susan, something that you'd mentioned to me earlier is there is an opportunity at your museum, I guess, for folks to experience what it feels like to sit in one, and to get that experience at any point visiting your museum. Is that true?
That is true. And I'm going to switch this back over to Noah so he can explain about our driving.
So our driving simulator, it's such an incredible piece that was made by the East Central Kansas T chapter. You're able to actually sit in it. There's a lot more room than an actual Model T. You're capable to feel all the pedals. You're capable to feel all the levers. You're able to turn it from battery to magneto. And you even have a little list of if you need to go up a really steep hill, or whether if you need to, or if you're just driving on a flat. It's a really, really neat piece that we've barely been able to utilize because of COVID-19, but we're hoping that we're capable to start having people sit back in it.
Oh, that is so exciting. And I know I have some images you guys shared with me that I'm going to share with the crew in the comments section in just a few minutes of that simulator. But what was exciting for me was that one it was very reminiscent of what I've seen at our museum. It is just brass tacks. It is everything you need, nothing you don't, which it's exciting to see the additions. Anyone who's been to our museum recently, we have a beach wagon Model T. I believe it's a 1926 beach wagon, or maybe it's 1925, but it's, it has the wood paneling and, it's absolutely gorgeous. But it's fun to see having been in one of those very basic models, so you can see what the evolution was. And we did actually have one of our cast members, Marianne Stevens, who joined us in the live stream last week, just write in saying that she loves that there's a Model T simulator somewhere out there. So I'm sure that one of our crew is going to be picking your brain about how to get one up in on the East Coast where we are, because it sounds like an awesome experience.
Yeah. Can I jump in with just one comment? When you mentioned about the beach wagon, which here in Indiana and probably most places, they're usually called depot hacks or hucksters, but and it just shows all the many different uses for the Model T. That there in Maine, you adapted it to drive people to the beach, and here in Indiana and other places in the city, they were used to drive people to the train depot. So, I mean, the many uses of the Model T it's astounding.
Well, and so interesting how they built on each other, even without the internet, how the ideas traveled, because my understanding is that the beach wagons came about as a result of the depot hacks, so, because it is vacation land here. So, so we did have a comment from Ashley. Ashley's wondering, what types of programs are the clubs doing to increase interest and knowledge of Model Ts, especially in younger generations? And it's a shout out also hi to you, Susan, from the Langs. So
hi, Ashley.
So Susan, what sort of programs are clubs doing? Are you guys doing to help support the clubs? Because as we're seeing from the Model T series from Shifting History, this is not an age, there is no age restriction on this hobby. It is universal.
No. And I appreciate that question, because engaging younger people of all younger ages is so important to us in preserving the history of these fabulous vehicles, and also for passing all the fun along to them. So when and I think that's when I saw the shifting history that Tom and you all have put together. I was just so excited to see how you can reach a different generation. And one of the things that we started this past year, last October actually, is we started a youth membership program. And I'm just going to show our, it's called the Model T Explorers Club. And we started that last October, and it's intended for ages 7 to 17. We publish a newsletter every 3 months, and it's intended to engage in both history. There's activities, a lot of hands-on things that we show. We have a wonderful youth editor her name is Karen Krawchuk. She's actually an elementary school teacher. Her and her husband own Model Ts, and she has developed a fabulous program in engaging young people. And we're really excited. We have about 150 members right now, and we're looking to get more and more. And this last issue, we were really excited that we had some of the members actually contribute content to the youth newsletter. So that's kind of what we're hoping for, is to engage them as early as possible. A lot of our local chapters have programs that they go out to the community. And here in Richmond, we last year we were able to go to the local elementary schools and bring cars there. And so we're really recognize that we need to engage young people. And just one more comment, I don't mean to ramble on, but what we're seeing a lot of is that the grandchildren seem to be almost more engaged with the owners of them, since our average age is higher, the people that own Model Ts, but having the younger grandchildren connect with the grandparents is just so great to see. And we're seeing a lot of that now. So hopefully that will be the trend.
Well, and I think it's all about having, hands on something, right? There's which I think is part of the advantage, you're mentioning, as far as this is an industry that was meant to be driven. This is a vehicle that was meant to be explored and, tinkered with. And so I think it is really accessible, which is so important. Because I'm 33 now, so I am remembering back several decades. But I know when I was a kid, if I couldn't put my hands on it and really get into it and explore it, it was a blip. It didn't have the same sort of impact. And so the idea of getting horns and mufflers and stuff like that into kids' hands so they can say, okay, this is what a muffler is. I don't think that we can minimize how important that part is to make it real, because in a regular car or in their parents' car, you're not really told to go looking for the muffler, let alone touch it.
True.
So I think that there is, and that's part of, I think, what's exciting about what's coming up is right now, I know that we're working with our curatorial department to kind of survey, what comes next with something like Shifting History, if it's, it's well positioned to be turned into some curriculum, and the idea of some, sort of virtual learning for kids. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to collaborate on something like that in the future, because you've done an amazing job of building that program. 150 members already, and you just launched it in October.
Yeah. We're excited about it.
Interest right there.
Yeah.
So I have another question. Sorry to keep jumping right in, but I have another question coming in, wondering about, and I know that I've asked Warren this question in his live stream many weeks ago, but the question about if someone wanted to get into Model Ts, but they don't own one, is joining a local club for them? Is that, do you have to own a Model T to join a club, or can you start small? Can you join before you own?
Definitely start small, and that's actually a very good way to go about it, because if you hadn't been around Model Ts and you don't know, but you're fascinated by them, you join a local club and you won't find more people who want to talk about their cars and help you learn. Honestly, every local chapter that we have, and we have them in almost every state and a couple places, but that's a great thing, is if you absolutely don't have to have a Model T. You may want to join the local club, join the national club, and then you get the vintage Ford and be able to keep up on things and see the cars that are for sale. Actually, Noah handles our classifieds, so yeah, that you're able. So absolutely, we recommend. And our website, I'm gonna flip it over to let Noah promote our website.
So with our website, we just recently gave it a facelift back in March and April. It's such an incredible, useful tool now, especially since we were able to organize everything a lot better than what it used to look like. It looked like it used to run on Windows 98, to be completely honest with you. It is such an incredible, useful tool. We've got our encyclopedia on there, which just about anything that you can think of is on that encyclopedia. Everything to accurate paints, accurate parts of the time, and you can even check out your serial number just to see what year your T actually is. And then we also have our online forum on the website as well. Our online forum has, I don't even really know how many members, but it is extremely active. And just about any type of question that you could think of Model T wise, more than likely one person has had that exact same question, and there's a topic on it on that forum. And so people will be able to find it that way. It's a really useful tool, and we keep up to date on absolutely everything that you can think of, any type of tours that you would like to go on, and stuff even going along here at the museum.
Well, and I know it is an amazing upgrade, and I know that reference tool, the encyclopedia part, to look up terms, I've used that because it's, especially as they were building the Shifting History Tour, it is very hard if you didn't grow up around Model Ts to really do the copy editing checks that I'm supposed to do and anything like that. So even for me, it was amazing. And Marianne actually I have shared, for anybody watching, I have shared that link to the Model T Ford Club of America right in the comments. And Marianne points out one of the other things that I wanted to mention is the Matterport tour. The interactive tour that you guys done, it is absolutely stunning. Just a really great way of showing what the museum has to offer. And I know that there's another addition to your museum as well, that Susan, that I would love to have you guys mention, which was it was an actual vintage Ford agency, right?
That's right. Yes, when we were reopened on July 7th, our fabulous volunteers had been working to finish that so it would be done when we opened. And it's there's the front entrance, and part of that was the new mural there, and you can see our 5 millionth the day it arrived. But in going into this is the second. We have actually two buildings, so this is the second building. And when you go into this building, it's like stepping back in time, and it's intended to show how Ford agencies developed over the years from what was literally one car, one room, one salesman setup into a larger showroom, which is just finished, and it's beautiful. It's it's just as you would expect a early 1900s car showroom to look. Then the next advancement for an agency at that time would have been the addition of a vintage garage to do repairs, which we have, and a machine shop, which we have fully functioning, and a parts department, and There's also an agriculture room, and I'll mention that everything in the museum, from the tools to the cars, with the exception of a few loaners, have all been donated from wonderful members and non-members as well. And so all of the tools that we have in the Vintage Garage, the machine shop, everything is authentic to the period and has been gifted to us. And we're so honored that people have done that. And it's really a fabulous tribute to our members and people who love Model Ts.
Well, and such a cool resource. I know if anyone hasn't poured through on the website or visited the museum, if you're local enough to be able to do so, I would definitely recommend it. There's nothing more exciting than something that's immersive. And that's truly what you've created, is not just an immersive experience, which is, you know, what we try and do by flying and driving, but to be able to walk into an immersive atmosphere like that, that really takes you back, not just in a Model T to the driving experience alone, but that puts you in the experience of someone buying not just their first Model T, but their first car. And maybe their first car in any generation of their family. That's very cool.
It is. It is.
Well, it looks like we are coming to the end of our live stream chat. I appreciate everybody watching, for tuning in, and for putting up with our minor technical difficulties here in Midcoast, Maine. And Susan, Noah, thank you so much for joining us. This is, I feel like, the beginning of a beautiful friendship, not to sound cliche, but this was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys again. We greatly appreciate it.
Wonderful. All right. So if anyone wants to check out those resources, please head over to mtfc.com. That link is right in our comments area. And make sure to check in on the digital drop of episode 6 tomorrow on OHTM's YouTube channel. So thank you so much, and we'll see everybody later.
Great. Thank you. Bye.